Hello, squaddies. Welcome to a brand new series I'm gonna try and do. To be completely honest with you, when I first came up with the idea for this series, I had a little bit of an identity crisis, because for those of you that haven't seen this before, this is the closed alpha for Spellbreak, which is a forthcoming, brand new battle royale game. Now, the reason I had a bit of an identity crisis is because up until this game, up until Spellbreak, I was never terribly interested in playing a battle royale. It just never, I looked at them and none of them really interested me all that much. At first, the first one I was really kind of interested in at all was Royale, but I decided, no, I'm going to hold off on that because it's just, I don't know, something about it just never sat well with me. But it's also just, the reason I'm not a big fan of them is, first off, I'm not a big fan of hyper-competitive PvP, as I've mentioned before on this channel. And that's all battle royales are at the end of the day. But beyond that, there's also just the fact that I have nothing against third-person shooters or first-person shooters, but it just doesn't, when the entirety of the game is literally just get a gun, kill people until everybody else is dead or you yourself have died, it just doesn't seem that interesting to me. There's not really doesn't seem like a lot of nuance to it. And for all the fact that I play a lot of games and I tend to bowl straight forward through things, I do try to get some fun little puzzle elements to it. And then along comes Spellbreak. I found out about this from a YouTuber that I follow that I rather enjoy. And I was like, huh. So I went and applied for the closed alpha, and I got into this a couple of days ago. It's actually going to be last week for you guys, now that I think about this. But what makes Spellbreak interesting is a couple of differences. I mean, we still have the standard stuff, like we have the health, you have loot items you need to find, you have armor you can regenerate through items, all that. And of course, you will eventually have Spellbreak's version of the Storm. I'm not exactly certain what it's called in this yet. But there's a couple of other differences. Like, you might look down at my hotbar, or my health bar, and see the thing above it's like, oh, you've got full armor. No, I don't, actually. The big red bar is your health bar. The bluish white one above that is not an armor bar. That is your mana bar, because in Spellbreak, you play a wizard. Or, I'm not 100% certain what the title of the player characters is. I'm just going to go with wizard for now, because that's fitting. Now, you always have 100 mana. There are a couple of skills you can pick up, because you see the press B to choose class, that give you a little more, I think. We'll look into that when we go into the classes in just a moment. But first off, one of the other things I like about this is that I can actually go ahead and just start casting spells. Now, your mana will regenerate over time. It will regenerate faster if you do not empty it. Watch, so I'm just going to go ahead and... Each one of these is using up 10 mana. And switching hands is just... And then there's the recharge, which takes a little bit longer than just... And I'm going to let that recharge. That's much faster. That is, like I said, that is a basic attack. You always have that if you don't have anything equipped. And switching hands, that's because you can have 2 weapons equipped at one time. Now, there is an inventory system, of course, because I've been talking about that. And the reason I've been looking out here is because behind me is the inventory items that we can pick up. So we're going to go ahead and turn around here and take a look. Now, first off, we have the rarities. Of course, we have white as the basic, green is an upgraded, blue is even better, purple is second to best, and then best is the goldish orange color. We have 6 items, or 6 equipable items that we can use. We have, all of your weapons in this game are gauntlets that give you special magical abilities. Think the Infinity Gauntlet, but much more limited. It only focuses on one of, let's see, what is it, 6. One of 6 different elements that we'll talk about. You also get an amulet, which usually buffs one of your other items that I'll talk about in just a second. You get belts that tend to be buffs for you, and then boots, which give you special mobility options. And you also have a rune slot. The rune slot gives you a special trick, like you can get a short-range teleport, you can get one that turns you invisible, you get one that lets you fly for 4 seconds. All of these are very interesting and can actually help you out in the game, because that's what they're built for. And of course you also have health and armor potions that you can pick up. Now, I'm not going to go through the belts, the amulets, and the boots, and the runes in this video. In this video, I'm going to just talk about the basics, and I'm going to show you the big reason that I'm interested in Spellbreak. But first off, let's demonstrate the gauntlets, because we have 6 elements. We have Toxic, which is poison, damage over time. A Lightning Gauntlet, which is hit scan, 3-round burst. Wind Gauntlet, which is somewhat rapid fire after a small charge time, and is also got a special trick. I'll show you when I pick that up. We have the Stone Gauntlet, which is very long range, but kind of slow moving, and also has a bit of a grenade function, as does the Toxic Gauntlet. The Flame Gauntlet, this is your basic, think of this as your basic rifle, with a twist, that I'll talk about when we get into that. And then the Frost Gauntlet is actually your sniper rifle. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about the class system. Because you'll see the press B to choose class. I'm going to do that now. This is all done with the basic keyboard setup. Now, this is a big deal, because you have 11 classes to choose from. And this will actually affect your playstyle and what you want to go for. So, for example, the first one here, Bulwark. This is for tanks. You're going to be very durable, but you're not going to have a whole lot of big, flashy powers to it. So, Fortify, if you have any armor, regenerate 5 armor every 10 seconds. You get that as soon as you pick up Bulwark. So this just makes you tankier, and you'll also see that Inner Peace, Manivore, and Transference all have a 1 next to them. That is because every skill in every tree, with the exception of the starting skill, has 3 levels to it. So Inner Peace, regenerate 40% of damage taken over 20 seconds, but any damage taken beyond that will stop the regeneration. So if you take 100 damage, and you probably won't survive that, but if you take like 50 damage, you will regenerate 40% of that, which is, let's see, 40% of 50 is, yeah, it's 40. So you would regenerate 40 damage. Wait, no, that's 80%. What am I doing? It's 20 damage. You would regenerate 20 damage over 20 seconds, but if you then take 1 damage, nope, no regen for you. Manivore, 30% of damage done to HP is taken from mana instead. So this is a mana shield like you'd see in something like Diablo. And then of course Transference, if you damage your target's armor, you gain 20% of that as armor for yourself. So the Bulwark class is all about tankiness. Then there's the Conduit. It's all about being fast and doing indirect or passive damage. And it's a specialization in lightning. The time to master I'm not 100% on, but I'll figure that out. I'm going to do a couple of rounds off camera before I do a full video on that. But the starting skill Lightning Fast just increases your sprint speed, but it breaks for a minute if you attack or take damage. So you'll be faster until you get into combat. It's basically a way to run into combat, not really a great way to run away from it. Then Arc Flash. Any lightning you shoot has a 25% chance to leave behind a ball of lightning that strikes nearby players, so you can kind of leave an AoE area denial with this. Charged Rune. After using your rune, fire arcs of lightning toward nearest target for 20 damage, and has a 5-second cooldown. So your rune, which is natively mapped to the R key, will basically make it so that you are temporarily a walking Tesla coil. And then Lightning Rod, become immune to lightning storms and gain 15 mana every time you are struck by one. This is a big deal because the lightning storm is something I'm going to have to show you guys, and you'll see why it's going to be a big thing. Next up, though, is Crack Shot. This is for snipers. High damage, precision, or precise casting. So yeah, like I said, it's long range. It says high time to master, but again, I'm not 100% on that. Starting skill Empower. So every 10 seconds... I think as far as I'm reading this, you only gain 1 charge. You only have 1 slot or 1 charge of this. So every 10 seconds, one single spell of yours will do 30% more damage. That's it. However, armor piercing is a big deal because 20% of damage ignores target's armor. so you can punch straight through somebody and start hurting them immediately. High velocity, your projectiles go 30% faster. And then steady aim, after standing still for 4 seconds, you do 20% more damage. Now, of course, these are going to go up as you level up. Frostborn is all about mobility and utility, and specializes in the Ice Gauntlet. And you have Cold Snap for your starting skill. Every 30 seconds, set your over armor to 50, but you lose this if you take any damage. So it's basically something to stop the first 50 damage you're going to take. Which could actually be quite a big deal. This could actually be something to save your life. Chilling effect, while on ice, your mana costs are reduced by half, so instead of the basic attack being 10 mana, it'd be 5 mana. Basically, it doubles the amount of spells you can cast before you have to recharge. And you don't really want to get to recharge because, like I showed you, that takes a long time. Frozen Alacrity, your speed is doubled on ice and you no longer slip. You might even get faster depending on how high up Frozen Alacrity goes. And then Tundra, which increases the size and duration of your Blizzard effect by 50%. Blizzard is another one of the big things I'll talk about when we get to the Ice Gauntlet. Then Pyromancer, obviously this is going to be specialized in fire. It's healing and damage over time. Your starting skill gives you a one-shot resurrection where when you exiled, which is what they call it when you die, you come back to life with 50%, with half health, so 50%, but you only do this once. So this is if you're the last guy, if you're one of the last two standing and you haven't died and you haven't used this yet, congrats. You could, in theory, win it out just by duking it out with the guy dying and coming back. All right, Born of Fire. Become immune to your fireball explosions and heal 4 HP every 2 seconds while standing in fire. This is important. The immune to your own fireball thing is important because your spells can hurt you if there's a lasting area that they leave. I'll show you that when we get into this. Next up, Ignite. Players can be set on fire. They take 3 damage per second for 3 seconds. That's 9 damage. Of course, I'm pretty sure that'll go up as you level up Ignite. Lasting Burn. Fireballs leave a puddle of fire that lasts for 5 seconds. So that's just, again, good area denial and good way to leave some damage over time. Next, Scavenger. This is one that's all about getting more stuff. Like it says, strength of finding items. Starting skill, Finders Keepers. Chests you open contain 1 additional rare or better item. So if you can get this up, or actually no, you can't level up Finders Keepers, never mind. Appraise, you highlight items within 50 meters of you. Finest Wares, when your inventory and equipment slots are full, your rune cools down faster, you decrease your cast time by 10%, and all incoming damage is reduced by 10%. So this is another great way. You could probably combine that with Bulwark and get really tanky. And then Thirst Quencher is your final skill. Picking up a potion gives you an extra of that type, and you drink potions 15% faster, which could help you out and keep you alive. And I'll talk about the potions near the end of the video. Next up, Scholar. This is all about using your rune better. You get updated translations, which apparently can be upgraded. I don't know, because it says updated translations 1. But it decreases your rune cooldown by 30%, which could be the difference between life and death in this game. Careful Study. Targets you hit are outlined for 5 seconds, so this is just this is probably better for... Scholar is probably better if you're in a team environment, because there are squads in this. I'll see about doing some of those eventually. Runic Inspiration. After using a rune, decrease you and your nearby teammates' rune cooldown by 25% for 5 seconds. So your runes cool down faster, and your teams do too. And then Intense Learning. Upon taking 40 total damage, instantly refill a rune charge, because some runes can actually have multiple charges, and one of the belts you can get actually gives you extra charges as well, because the belts are, like I said, they're kind of about buffing everything. Next up, Stone Shaper. This is specialized in the stone gauntlets, and it's based around armor, attack, and defense. You gain, so for example, your starting skill that you gain is Sunder. Targets lose an additional 20% armor when damaged. That's a good deal, and actually Stone Shaper and Bulwark sound like they'd be a good combo. Mostly because Bulwark gives you armor, Stone Shaper can allow you to take armor, as we'll see. But Earth's Mantle, if damage would exile you, set your HP to 1 instead. Cannot occur more than once every 90 seconds. So every minute and a half, you have an extra life. That'll leave you at 1 HP. Next, Flesh of Stone. Set your armor and max armor to 200, but your max HP is 10. So you become a glass cannon if they break through your armor. If you play Path of Exile, this is a lot like taking the Chaos Inoculation, where you're immune to chaos damage, but your HP is permanently 1. Rock Slide is the final one. Increase length of Earth spell of the air spell by 15%, but decreases its damage by 30%, and it bounces off instead of colliding with obstacles. You'll see what I mean about the length of that and colliding with obstacles when I get to the Stone Gauntlet. Next up, Tempest. This is actually one I used when I first started practicing, because that is what this is. This is practice mode. So this is all about aerial combat, and it specializes in the Wind Gauntlet. And it uses its starting skill is Updraft. You become immune to the Whirlwind, and it launches you skyward if you get into one. This is a big deal, because again, this is another one of the big things I'm going to talk about when we get to the Wind Gauntlet, which is actually kind of one of my favorites so far. But Slipstream, gain 10 mana and max mana every second while in the air, and then you lose that 10 seconds after, or your mana returns to normal 10 seconds after you're on the ground. So you'll regain some mana, and you'll actually gain extra mana for every second you're in the air. Now Squall 1, for every spell cast in the air, your spell damage increased by 6% up to a maximum of 30%. So this will stack 5 times, and but you lose those stacks as soon as you're on the ground. And then Sudden Gust, after being in the air for 1 second, sorceries cool down 100% faster while in the air. The sorcery is something specific I'll talk about when we get to the gauntlets. I've been mentioning it a lot. Next up, Toxicologist. I also tried this one. It's zone control, HP, and armor damage over time, like it says, and it specializes in the Toxic Gauntlet. And it starts with Corrosion. Any target you hit loses 5 armor every 5 seconds for 15 seconds, so it's going to lose a total of 15 armor. Unless it's regenerating, or if you can combine this with Stone Shaper. Bubonic Bounce. Poison Cloud bounces 1 time and leaves behind an extra cloud. That is dealing with the big thing, so I'll talk about that, but the Poison Cloud is actually pretty big. Next up, Spreading Sickness. Targets take an additional 20% damage from your attacks over the next 10 seconds if they have no armor. So if you can break through their armor, which is also why I think Toxicologist and Stone Shaper would be good as a combo, since you do more damage to armor, you can actually make it so that your target takes extra damage. And then Vanishing Mist, become immune to poison clouds and gain stealth for 3 seconds when entering one. Stealth just means you're invisible for a bit. Being immune to poison clouds can be a big deal, because it seems like a lot of people favor the Toxic Gauntlet. And then finally, Zealot. High risk, high reward, aggressive play. That's what this is all. That's the name of the game with the Zealot. It has no specialty, but it starts with the skill Frenzy. When you're at or below 35 HP, your damage is up by 25%, and your sprint speed is up by 20%. So you're faster, and you hit harder. But you got to do it when you're very low on health. You got to do it at about 1/3 of your HP. Next up, Blood Armor. Every 3 seconds, you gain 3 armor, but lose 2 health. Once your armor hits max, or you hit 5 or less HP, this turns off. This is, again, something you'd really want to be careful with, because that's a passive. You don't turn that on. Next up, Penitence. If you take more than 40 damage to your HP, specifically your HP, in 2 seconds, further incoming damage is reduced by 30% for 2 seconds. So basically, this, along with something like Bulwark, would make you pretty tanky. And then Vivisection. Upon exiling an enemy, they have an 80% chance to drop a skill point. That's one thing I haven't talked about yet. I'm just going to go ahead and pick Toxicologist and Tempest, because you get 2 classes. And then you have these right here. These are your scrolls. These are the skills that we just talked about. Once you get skill points, you'll be able to choose between a selection. So like it might give me a choice between, I don't remember what those are called, but it might give you a choice between Vanishing Mist and Squall. You can pick one, and your skill point goes into that. Now, the thing we need to talk about here, and the thing that most people are probably wanting to know about, are the gauntlets and how they play. So we're going to go ahead and pick one. I'm going to do this one at a time, just to show them off real quick. So what we got here, first off, the Frost Gauntlet. Like I said, this is your sniper rifle. You can just kind of quick fire it. It goes out, and you'll notice it leaves an ice trail behind it. That's going to become important in just a moment. But first off, like I said, you can quick fire, but you can also hold the charge, draws back, and fire. The main difference is that if you quick fire, it tends to drop off a little near the end, but if you hold it, I can probably hit that dummy from here. Or not. I probably could have aimed just a little higher. But the Frost Gauntlet, that is what that is. And then each gauntlet also has what's called a sorcery, which is a big skill. Usually it's a big AoE. For the Frost Gauntlet, you can hold it. You're going to be allowed to have 2 gauntlets. I'll show you that in just a bit. I'm doing 1 gauntlet at a time right now, but the sorcery for this is called Blizzard. If it's on your left click, which is what this is, then it's going to be on, then the sorcery will be mapped to Q. If it's on your right click, it'll be mapped to E. So let's go ahead and hit Q. I'm going to hit and hold it. This will show you the AoE. Once you release, Blizzard goes off. This ice, you do slide on the ice a little bit. But what this will do is any enemy caught in this area will be frozen solid for a few seconds. So you can use that to get some free damage in. And yes, I'm just skating around on ice because it amuses me. Now you hold tab to open your inventory. I'm just going to go ahead and put this down here. Because like I said, I'm going to do this one at a time. Next up, oop, it helps if you actually hit the right button, is the Flame Gauntlet. Now like I said, the Flame Gauntlet is kind of your short range, or mid-range rifle. It does have some, you can actually get some decent range going on it. You can actually get some real good range on that. Alright, we know there's a dummy up there. Let's see if I can hit it from here. I can indeed. Now, like I said, the Flame Gauntlet is all about just, it does use up quite a bit of your mana. Each one of these uses about 17. I didn't actually check with the Frost Gauntlet. Frost Gauntlet uses about 17 as well, okay. But the sorcery for the Fire Gauntlet is actually a good AoE denial, because what you can do, you can quick fire this, but you can also hold it, and you can set up a wall of flames. Now you can actually shoot through this, and that'll actually become important in just a few minutes when I talk about that. Let's go ahead and move both of these off my arms. So we talked about ice and fire. Let's try the Stone Gauntlet. Now the Stone Gauntlet, not my favorite really, but first off, its basic attack is a giant wave that goes a good distance. But there's a problem with it. Namely, watch. I'll see if I can get this at the right angle, but with that, you see how it hit the wall and stopped? Whereas, it's because if it hits anything, it will just stop dead. However, its sorcery is kind of neat, but it's kind of plain at the same time, because it's, what you do is you can hit and hold Q. It becomes basically a grenade launcher. But you don't launch a grenade. You launch a giant rock that actually gains in size the farther it travels. So if the Stone Gauntlet is more about how well can you fight at a distance. Let's see if I can actually hit that dummy over there. I can indeed. That was more a test of can I hit it, not can the gauntlet reach that far. So that's our first three gauntlets. Now we're getting into the others. First off, we're going to do one of my favorite with the Wind Gauntlet. Now the Wind Gauntlet, like I said, has a quick little charge, and then you can just kind of spam out little wind blades. They have decent range, and they just travel straight. But the fun part about the Wind Gauntlet, and this is what makes it part of my favorite, is it's got a neat little interaction. Because what you can do, you can aim at the ground, fire down, and suddenly you've got extra mobility. I wonder. You cannot knock yourself back with it, but you can actually just... But you can actually use this to get some surprisingly good mobility, because this game actually has quite a bit of that, which is good in my book. Now, this is also probably one of the most visually noticeable of, aside from the firewall, the Wind Gauntlet has probably the most noticeable of the sorceries. Here it is. You aim it, and you set a tornado. Now, it doesn't do a huge amount of damage, and you can still shoot into it, which, again, will become important in just a second, but, like I said, that's one of the things that you use that, people are going to notice it, because it's a tornado, and it does actually have some AoE gravity to it, so you will get pulled in. Next up, I already kind of explained the Lightning Gauntlet. This is a 3-round burst hit scan weapon. So if you have your target reticle on somebody and you pull the trigger, actually it might not be full hit scan, but it's pretty close if it isn't. And you can spread the shots out. It's decent range. You can hit from a good distance away, but the big thing about this one is, just like with the Wind Gauntlet, it's got a big AoE thing that you can aim. But this one is a little more random, because it's a lightning storm. Kind of hoping they add a cloud to that eventually, but that is the Electric Gauntlet. It's all about quick little burst damage, and can actually be pretty good for you. Alright, I'm going to drop the Stone Gauntlet here for just a second. Because now we're on to the final of the 6 gauntlets. We're on to the Toxic Gauntlet. This is an interesting operational one, because its main attack is a shotgun where you just hurl out 4 little blobs of toxin that actually leave an AoE area, like a small area. Oh my god, if I step into this, like I said, you can hurt yourself with your own spells. Its sorcery is very similar to the Earth one, but as far as I've seen, it doesn't grow over time or over distance, so we're just going to go ahead and throw it out. But what it does do is leave behind a toxic cloud that does deal damage. Now, I'm going to do something a little strange, because I know about a lot of this already from experimentation, but I want to try something. I want to try out because one of the things I'm going to show you before I do this experiment is that one of the big reasons I like this game so far, even though I haven't actually played a full match of it yet, is that, as you can probably guess from the way I do that with the air jump, the gauntlets actually have some interaction. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to chuck out that. That's just a poison. Now I'm going to hit it with a wind blade, and it turns it into a short-lived poison cloud. That is a big deal, because you can actually do some interesting interactions. Let's try this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to release a tornado, and then I'm going to chuck a poison bomb into it, and suddenly, toxic tornadoes. You can combine your different gauntlet spells in some very interesting ways. Probably one of the strangest ones I know of, though, is there's a couple that actually take a little bit of finagling to do. Here, let me put a fire and a frost gauntlet. Now, the reason I'm doing it this way is because this is actually something that is very specific. It takes a pretty interesting set of circumstances to get this one to work. It would probably work better in a team environment, but watch. This, I can charge up, fire my ice. Next I'm going to hit that. Now, I've created a steam cloud and I melted some of the ice, but watch. If I hit that steam cloud with lightning, I have now created a charged atmosphere. You go in here, you don't take damage, but you do get shocked, which kind of disables you for a minute. Yeah, I can't cast any spells while I'm shocked. It doesn't do any damage, but it's a disable. You can also charge water with lightning to make it more dangerous to walk into. The fun part is this: if you actually get if water actually gets poisoned, it creates a larger poison surface. And you can also charge poison with lightning, and the lightning will actually travel a little bit down the range. Not a far distance, but enough. Now you can also freeze poison. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So this poison is now frozen, which means it's safe for me to walk on. So there's a lot of interesting things. You can also combine, probably my favorite combo though is these two. Fire and Toxin. The real reason, you can do this without the sorcery, but I want to show you guys with the sorceries because this is frankly kind of cool. Alright, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to set the dummy on fire. And then I'm going to toss in my sorcery. You can actually create what I'm calling balefire, because you can create toxic flames. Now the toxic flames are not very long-lived, but as you can see, they do about 20 damage a tick. They hit hard. So that is one of the big reasons I like this game, because the combinations you can pull off. It's like, oh, somebody's like, oh, hey, I can just jump over that poison. Nope. Suddenly they're in toxic fire. The one thing I haven't really seen though the one thing that I haven't understood or haven't really figured out is I haven't seen many combinations with the stone gauntlet. Because it seems like the stone gauntlet is all about removing areas, because you saw it there. I throw out my poison. Sprint over here real quick. And it's gone, because I just used that. So I think the stone gauntlet mostly seems to be aimed at getting rid of other people's AoE leavings. Now, of course, you're not going to start with these big gauntlets at the start. You're going to start with something more like this. Now, a couple of other things to talk about before we wrap this up. Go over here because this is where they put them in the practice mode. Of course, we have health and armor potions. Self-explanatory. You drink a small, except for one difference. I'm going to hold this real quick because you can see what an item does if it's nearby. So your small armor potion, after drinking for 3 seconds, that's how long it takes you to drink it, you gain 20 armor over 10 seconds. And small health potion is the same way. They are both over time. They're heals over time. That is the big thing I wanted to show you. There's also these, of course. You have rune chests. Just walk up to them, hit F to open them. That is on the default key bindings again. You can get a couple of items. Like I got a flight rune, a chronomaster rune, common frost gauntlet, and an amulet of knowledge, which can give you extra mana. But one of the other things I want to show you guys real quick, you're going to require me to climb this tower. Or I can actually just do it that way. But yeah, what? You see, I have no armor. I'm intentionally doing this to show you that there's no fall damage in this game. Which is a great thing, because, I mean, you can actually be... Some of the spells can pick you up and throw you a huge distance. That was just me being fun. That was just me having fun. So that is kind of the basics of Spellbreak. Like I said, I'm not normally a big fan of the Battle Royale genre, but the ideas behind this, that Proletariat, the company that made this, have come up with are rather interesting to me. Unfortunately, I cannot. You can poison the ocean, but you can't actually electrify it. So I'm going to be doing some content on this for a while. If you guys enjoy this, please let me know. Like I said, I'm not normally big on battle royales, so I'm setting something up. I don't know what's good. If you guys have any tips about how to get into this, please do leave a comment down below. Let me know so that I can do better. And if you enjoyed this, please do drop a like. That does help me out and lets me know, hey, y'all want to see more of this stuff. And if you want to keep up with me in my current series, and consider joining the squadron by subscribing to the channel. That does help me out, and I really do appreciate it a lot. But as for that, squaddies, I have been D. This has been a quick little introductory look at the first Battle Royale I've ever really cared to play. This is Spellbreak. Until next time, good night, and good gaming.